now.
Now, let's talk about the professionalization of the industry. It's a wide, large industry with so many different agencies. There's like the large agencies that are operating that we probably all heard of out there who do a lot of things besides just localization, translation. What is the process of becoming an interpreter or a translator, aside from the certification? Are there curriculums at universities that offer you a diploma in translation studies or interpretation or theory? Are there diplomas that offer that?
Absolutely, yeah. It is, as I mentioned, a relatively young industry, but it's growing up, and as the world continues to kind of flatten out, the internet and everything, right? Borders are way less of a thing. The industry is growing up, and Middlebury has a great program is historically. So there's the Monterey Institute in Monterey, California, which and then Middlebury was always known as having a great language school, a language program. And then I believe Middlebury bought or acquired Monterey or partnered with Monterey. So they're a real powerhouse in the space and widely respected and widely known. There's a couple other schools that have pretty very solid language programs and training for translators and interpreters. As it is right now, I don't have the actual stats, but I do believe that the industry is kind of running at a deficit in so much as the amount of content that is being the amount of content that's being produced that will require translation at some point is kind of growing exponentially daily, and the amount of linguists that are coming into the industry as folks are exiting, based on age or otherwise, we're just not keeping up, and so we're gonna run into a shortfall here in the future, I believe, in terms of being able to process that stuff with the available linguists that we have. So education in the industry has certainly become a much bigger thing, and I am seeing more organizations and kind of local chapters of things, and the ATA, but then the ATA also has local chapters everywhere, and it's great to see that the industry, I've been doing this for 15 years, and so a lot has changed in that time. 15, 16 years, huh? Look at that. A lot has changed in that time, and so it's been kind of cool to watch, and certainly fun to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating. So then the course of a person that's interested in going into this type of profession, whether they want to go into translation or interpretation, talk about the different skill sets. You mentioned the differences between what translation and interpretation is, but what about the types of people? Because let's say, for example, someone says, Brandon, you speak Spanish. Hey, I want you to come over here, help interpret this conversation that I'm having with my colleague in the Madrid office. And you say, wait a second. I can probably understand what they're saying, most likely, but am I skilled to be able to provide you either consecutive interpretation or simultaneous interpretation? Tell us a little bit about how that actually works itself out, because that's another area that we get a lot that people use without really precision in when they're talking about languages.
Right. I mean, it's definitely the majority of the industry is kind of a freelance world. We don't. Some industry or some agencies do have in-house linguists. We do not. That allows us to specialize and kind of leverage time zones and things like that. And it's just not a financially suitable model. But the linguists, a lot of them work from home, which we're all now doing. So our industry was kind of uniquely positioned in that way before we were struck by COVID. But these are really, really smart people, really hardworking people, but they can also, they can just be folks that don't like other people, and they like to sit in their home office and just crank out work. So translators will tell you they're a funky bunch and they're a fun bunch. But it's one type of person that's able to do that and able to do that well, for an extended amount of time. And then obviously interpreting it's kind of more of a social, you're out face to face, You're talking, obviously, you have to be able to read the room. You have to be professional. You have to, you have to have the same kind of knowledge, right? Like subject matter knowledge is equally important in interpreting as it is in translation. But in practice, the two, kind of art forms, if you will, are pretty different and require a different type of person.
Because in a interpreting environment, something is taking place, whether it's a deposition or maybe a presentation to a public audience, you're speaking and the person is conversating to somebody, and then they're hearing what you're saying through an interpreter's interpretation of what they're hearing. So this is not something that can be done by just any person who happened to be fluent in that language.
No, it's interpreting, especially because it is, kind of so quick. It's, with translation, you have a page in front of you that you can take your time and you can go back and you can revise and you can edit, and, you have time to kind of perfect your work product. Whereas interpreting is on the spot, right? It's, you have to be really sharp. And it's, if you ask an interpreter, especially simultaneous conference interpreting, they will tell you that it is one of the hardest things that they've ever done, because it's just, think about it, right? If you stop to kind of think about all that goes into it, someone is talking, you're listening, while simultaneously in your head, you're doing your thing and then firing it back out in a matter of seconds, right? That's a big feat. That's, especially if you're talking about something technical and things like that, it's really, really hard.
Yeah, with the precision. I was trying that 2 days ago. We created some cybersecurity content in Japanese. It's a 3-minute video that our team put together, and I was showing it to a colleague who doesn't understand Japanese, just to get them a sense of how the animation, the characters interact. And they said to me, "Can you just tell me what's going on?" And so the video was playing. It was a 3-minute clip on cybersecurity and a certain type of threat vector. And I was about maybe 45 seconds into it, doing what would it be like a simultaneous interpretation? I'm listening to it and then I'm saying it.
Yep.
And at about 45.
The pause button and then talking, that would be consecutive, right?
Oh, that would be consecutive. Oh, okay, I see that difference. I sometimes get that wrong, even though I'm sort of in the industry. Simultaneously and consecutive. Tell me what you said. Hit the pause button and that'll be consecutive.
Well, so if you're watching the video, right? If you watch the video,
yeah,
and 30 seconds go, and then you hit pause, and the video stops, and then you turn around and you say, "Okay, this is what just happened," right? Because you're doing those things consecutively, right? Versus if you're doing it while it's happening in real time, you're doing it simultaneously, right? You're doing it simultaneously as the video is playing or as another person is speaking.
I see. So like in a conference environment, they're not going to stop at all. They're just going to keep going.
Right. The speaker doesn't stop to give the interpreter time to think and then, talk, interpret, right? And so they're up there. You think about a keynote speaker at any big conference that you've been to, right? They're up there, they're doing their thing, and that's it. And the interpreter's job is to keep up. And that therein lies the rub. That's a really hard thing to do, and a really hard thing to do it well.
Which means why you said you need a team, because you can't possibly go there for 45 minutes straight and do this.
Right. That's right.
I mean, you can try, but it's going to be quite exhausting.
Yeah. I mean, there are people that do it, but it's exhausting. And, you also really at that point, what you're doing is you're putting yourself at risk of sacrificing quality, and not by anybody's, desire or anything like that, but there's a level of fatigue that sets in just like anything. And, I think quality probably goes down as fatigue goes up with, that's kind of commonsensical, I guess.